Good morning. Thank you all for joining. We will give just a moment to clear the waiting room and make sure that folks have connected to audio and can hear us.
Can you hear us?
We can hear you. Thank you very much for being with us. Please do remain on mute when you're entering from the waiting room, unless or until you are appearing or testifying before the board. Give just another moment to clear the waiting room. Good morning. This is a hearing before the licensing board for the city of Boston. Today is Tuesday, December 10th, 2024. Today's hearing is being held pursuant to temporary amendments to the open meeting law. That is what allows us to meet virtually. Today's hearing is being recorded and will be posted to the City of Boston's website. Before I review procedural matters, I will introduce Chairwoman of the Board, Kathleen Joyce.
Thank you. Good morning. My name is Kathleen Joyce. I'm Chair of the Boston Licensing Board. Today, I'm also joined by Commissioner Liam Curran and Commissioner Kiana Saxon.
Thank you. Please ensure that your audio and visuals are working properly if you plan to provide testimony during this morning's hearing. I will call each item in the order that it appears on this morning's agenda. I will then ask who is present on behalf of the licensee, who is present on behalf of the Boston Police Department, and whether there are any other individuals with firsthand knowledge of the alleged incident who wish to testify. I will swear in all parties. After that, the police report will be read into the record, and the licensee or the representative will have the opportunity to make a brief statement, followed by questions by the chair and commissioners. All testimony will be limited only to those individuals with firsthand personal knowledge of the alleged incident. Begin with the first item on this morning's agenda, calling item number 1, H&H LLC, doing business as Harborside Inn, located at 185 to 187 State Street. Date of the incident, May 18th, 2024. Intoxicated patron in violation of Mass General Laws, Chapter 138, Section 64, and assault and battery patron on employee in violation of Mass General Laws, Chapter 138, Section 64, and Chapter 265, Section 13A. Who is present on behalf of the licensee?
Owner of the hotel, Mark Hagopian. We have a management contract with the Joya Restaurant. John Marco Rinaldi is here.
Attorney Fred Tunus on behalf of Mr. Marco Rinaldi and Joya Boston LLC.
Great. Thank you very much. Who is present on behalf of the Boston Police Department?
Good morning, Sergeant Plunkett's on the line.
Thank you, Sergeant. Are there any other individuals with firsthand knowledge of the alleged incident who wish to testify on this matter?
Joseph Beston was supposed to log in. I haven't seen him.
I'm right here.
Okay.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Beston. Are there any other individuals with firsthand knowledge who plan to testify?
No, sir.
Thank you. Can you all please raise your right
Mr. Secretary, I see Officer Ramirez is on here also. Frankie Ramirez.
Yes, Officer Frankie Ramirez.
Great. Thank you very much, Officer. Thank you. With that, can all who plan to testify please raise your right hand? Mr. Rinaldi, let's see. Thank you very much. Mr. Colella, you have not identified yourself yet.
I'm sorry, I've had a hard time getting in. I'm the manager of the Colonnade Hotel, David Colella.
This is for item number 1, Harborside Inn.
Yeah, we're on a different, Mr. Colella, we're dealing with the Harborside Inn right now.
Oh, you are? Okay.
Yeah. Great.
Right. Thank
Thank you. All right. Can all whose hands are raised, do you all swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
I do.
Thank you all. Sergeant Plunkett or Officer Ramirez, who will be reading the police report into the record?
Officer Ramirez.
Great. Thank you. You may please proceed for the board.
About 12:27 a.m. on Saturday, May 18th, 2024, Officers Ramirez and Damaris in the Alpha 202 Alpha responding to a radio call for a fight at 195 State Street, Boston. Upon arrival, officers witnessed the victim, Joseph Beston, and suspect Alejandro Polito Triana on the floor fighting. Officers quickly intervened and separated the two. After investigating the situation, officers were informed that the suspect, Polito, was apparently intoxicated and had refused to leave the restaurant when asked to do so by restaurant security. The victim, security officer Beston, along with help from restaurant patrons, managed to force Polito out of the restaurant due to his apparent aggressive behavior. Beston stated that he had no interest in pressing charges and simply wanted Polito to exit the restaurant course. Officers then asked Polito where he was traveling to. Officers then provided Polito with a courtesy ride to South Station. Polito refused medical attention.
Thank you, Officer Ramirez. It appears that there are additional reports as well.
Yes, sir. The additional report was authored by myself. Conducted on May 18th, 2024. I conducted a licensed premise inspection at Hoya, 195 State Street, Boston, subsequent to the original incident. Sergeant Plunkett met with the owner of Hoya, Gianmarco Rinaldi. All licenses were found to be active and conspicuously posted. I issued a licensed premise inspection notice 044990 for the following violations: intoxicated patron, assault and battery, patron on employee. And I do want to note it on the record that the staff of Hoya was extremely cooperative during this inspection and very helpful.
Thank you very much. Would the licensee and licensed attorney like to address the alleged incident?
Yes, thank you for the opportunity. It was a situation where Joya is managed appropriately. There's full staff. There's a security hired on the premises at all times. Joseph Beston was working that night. He was the security. He was on the premises. A patron became very aggressive with other patrons. Mr. Beston joined in, asked the individual to, go on the other side of the restaurant. They had a full conversation. The patron was very, very aggressive, very, very angry, to the point where Mr. Beston asked him to leave. He refused to leave, caused a huge commotion. It proceeded to the street. Joya called the police. Apparently, there were other police responding to a different call at the Black Rose. They intervened and helped Mr. Beston with the situation. It was a situation where this patron became very aggressive. He was asked to leave. This happened in May. Since then, there's been no incidents at Joya. Joya's been in existence for a couple of years now, and there's been no issues. This is, I guess, the first violation issued against Mr. Rinaldi's and the ownership, and it was handled correctly as far as we're concerned. This individual was there for a very short period of time. We don't know where he came from. Again, charges weren't pressed against them. And when I spoke to Mr. Beston, his position was he wanted to de-escalate the situation, and he did to the best of his ability. Unfortunately, he had to, this patron became aggressive, and but as far as we're concerned, everything was done correctly. As the officer indicated, Joya has been fully cooperative with the inspector, and we would ask that this not be a blemish on Joya's record. And that's all we have to say.
Thank you. Or anybody else on behalf of the licensee or Mr. Beston like to provide additional testimony to the board before we move to questions? Okay, with that, we'll see if there are any questions at this time. Chairwoman Joyce.
Thank you. Just a few questions. Do
Sure.
you know how long the suspect was in the restaurant?
That question's to whom?
Either Mr. Beston or to you, sir. I mean, were you able to determine how long he had been there? But a
Unfortunately,
short period of time, but what does that mean? Do you know how much alcohol he was served?
no, because
Or how long he was there?
he was asked to leave and he left without paying his tab. I don't think there was a credit card left, so he had to have paid in cash. Usually the process here is if you want to drink, you want to open up a tab, you have to leave a credit card. None of that was provided. So I can't, no one can tell you how much he drank at this spot, because he left. But I know that, you know, based on my conversations with ownership, that, you know, it was a rare incident that doesn't occur here that often. So they're fully aware of the situation. This individual wasn't here for a long period of time. It's my understanding that he works in the neighborhood, in the area, and you know, he's well known. That's one of the reasons why we didn't want to press any charges against him. It was an unfortunate situation. He was obviously being aggressive, and like I said, the goal for the restaurant was to de-escalate it and not make it a huge issue. But to answer your question, we can't answer that question. We don't know. Well, we do know that he wasn't here for a long period of time, and he was not overserved or he came in, he wasn't intoxicated when he came in, as far as we're concerned. He was just an angry individual, and
Mr. Beston, I know you were, the police report says that you were on the floor fighting with him. In your words, what happened?
So yeah, so I had noticed that he wasn't having dinner. Like, we're more of a restaurant, so we had dinner guests there, and I'm in and out because it's IID before, you know, customers enter. So, but I always go in and out because I'm the only security there. So I had noticed him, you know, coming up to a couple dinner guests. So myself and the manager, you know, we kept an eye on him. And then I had noticed at one point he came to the bar and he was basically harassing 3 guests that were at the bar. So at that point, this happened like multiple times. So I was just like, you know, hey, you know, I was like, these guys are just having a couple drinks. I didn't kick the guy out. I was like, just go to the other end of the bar, you know, whatever. You know, no big deal. And then he got super aggressive right there. And, you know, from there, I tried to escort him out. He had grabbed onto my arm and I was trying to get him off my arm. So we kind of like spun around and then ended up on the curb. He was on top of me. The guest that he was harassing apparently came flying out to help me because he was on top of me. So the patrons actually came to my defense because I'm the only security there. And as that happened, some officers who I believe were responding to a different call just happened to be driving by. So the gentleman had my hands. So I literally lifted my leg up in the air and was trying to wave down police. And that's when they saw my leg. They stopped. They came out. They said, "What's going on?" I said, "I'm security. This guy's assaulting me." So as they got him off of me, he spit on me, right on me. So then the cops, you know, restrained him. And then they asked me if I was okay. They asked me if I wanted to press charges. I said, no, you know, I'm okay. So that was basically it.
Okay, thank you very much.
Yeah.
Commissioner Saxon or Commissioner?
Oh, I'm sorry. One more thing. I hate to interrupt Commissioner Joyce, but we did call 911 as this whole thing, as it initially happened and we were on the ground. The manager, Leandro, came out and I said, call 911 ASAP. So I think that's when the officers responding to our call met the officers that were responding to a different call at like kind of like a similar time. I think the one responding to our call showed up maybe like a couple seconds later, like maybe 30 seconds later. So we did call 911 ASAP. It was, you know, that was a point. I was like, we got to call them now. So.
Okay, thank you very much.
Yeah.
Commissioner Saxon and Commissioner Curran, do you have any questions?
I do not, thank you.
Just to underscore your policy of taking credit cards in order to open a tab. I mean, that way you could have known how much he could have had to drink. I take it there's no cameras as well, just to figure out how long he had been there.
We do have a camera, and we could go back and see it, and then nobody.
There is video surveillance. We just have you checked it?
No, I haven't checked it.
Just for your own internal investigation, and sure, if you can find that information, we'd love to have it.
Absolutely.
Any further questions from the board on this matter? That the board will take this under advisement. Thank you very much. Calling item number 2, Pier 50 LLC, doing business as committee, located at 50 Northern Ave. Date of the incident, June 9th, 2024. Assault and battery, patron on patron, in violation of Mass General Laws, Chapter 138, Section 64, and Chapter 265, Section 13A, and failure to call 911, in violation of Mass General Laws, Chapter 138, Section 64, and Board's Rule 1.14B. Who is present on behalf of the licensee?
Morning, Attorney Green, Stephen Miller, Dermot Pulte Miller at Hanley. Morning, Madam Chair, Commissioner Saxon and Curran. Have with me this morning also the manager and part owner, George Albajati, who was on the premises at the time of the incident.
Thank you. I'm just trying to find Mr. Albajati on my screen. I know he was on the participant list.
I'm here.
Oh, there we go. Thank you. Who's present on behalf of the Boston Police Department?
Detective Sandra Swain.
Thank you, Detective. Are there any other individuals with firsthand knowledge of the alleged incident who wish to testify? Great. Can you both please raise your right hand? Thank you. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Yes.
Thank you. Detective Swain, if you could please read the police report into the record for the board.
Yes. On September 19th, 2024, Miss Kelsey Aina walked into District A1 to report that she was at a restaurant for work for a networking event, and she thinks someone slipped something into her drink, and she blacked out and could not remember anything. Miss Aina did not give any other details. She stated she just wanted this documented. Miss Aina was given information for C6 due to the location of the incident. That was
sorry, excuse me, Detective Swain. That's a different report.
Nope. That's the original report that I was assigned.
That is not a report that we have. This is incident report 242047228.
Nope. I have a different one.
Mr. Secretary, I have a copy of the police report on that, Detective Swain. It was a walk-in report. I've not previously been sworn, but it was assigned to Detective Swain. It was a walk-in report into District 6.
Thank you. Lieutenant Troy, you have this report, you said?
I do.
Great. I will just swear you in briefly. If you could please raise your right hand. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you very much, Lieutenant Troy.
This report, written by a police officer in District 6, reads as follows. At 3:35 on Sunday, June 9, 2024, Officer Moreno spoke to a walk-in report for assault and battery at a licensed premise. Officer spoke to the victim, Sean Lynn, who stated that he was assaulted inside committee at 50 Northern Ave, South Boston. Victim stated he was sitting at the main bar committee on June 8, 2024 at about 11 o'clock. Victim stated that he was then tapped on the shoulder and quickly turned and quickly turned around and observed the suspect, described as a 6 foot tall white male wearing a baseball cap, standing behind him. Victim stated that without warning or provocation, the suspect began repeatedly punching him in the face and head. Victim stated the bouncers eventually pulled the suspect off him and removed the suspect from the premises. Victim stated he was told by management, Nick Andasiu, that police were called and that there was video footage available. That's the extent of that report, and Detective Swing has another police report here that she issued a license premise violation. It's a supplement to the initial report, and it reads as follows. On June 9, 2024, license premise violation 070871 was issued to a manager, Jenny Nguyen, of committee located at 50 Northern Ave for assault and battery, patron on patron, and failure to call 911 for an incident on June 8, 2024. A copy of the violation was left with the manager. That's the extent of the police reports that I have.
Great, thank you very much. Attorney Miller, would you like to address the alleged incident?
You have no first knowledge of this incident, correct?
That's correct.
Do you know if the police requested any video of the incident?
Detective Swain is here, and she'll be able to.
Yes. Yes, I did, and they fully complied.
Thank you, Detective. I appreciate it.
I'm sorry, I had the wrong incident. I apologize for that, but yes, they fully complied. 911 was not contacted that night, but they did fully comply and provided video on 2 occasions for that incident.
Thank you, Detective. Madam Chair, Ms. Al-Bajadi's here. We did send video. I did send video over to Attorney Green yesterday showing the incident. It's pretty much, the video pretty much shows what was described. This gentleman wearing his hat on backwards or whatever, and a t-shirt, walks from one side of the bar through a fairly decent crowd of people, walks up to this person sitting at the bar who was chatting with another couple, and just starts punching him. There was nothing there was no prior incident. There was nothing that would have alerted anyone that this was going to happen. The security staff got involved as immediately. It was a matter of it didn't even last a minute, and this guy just walks out the door. Naturally, the security staff and Mr. Al-Bajadi, who was there, were most interested in the status of the person that was assaulted. Mr. Al-Bajadi and Mr. Antonucci, who's one of the assistant managers, spent significant time, they said somewhere between 40 and 45 minutes, with the victim, asking if he wanted medical assistance. He said no. He confirmed that he had no idea who this person was and why he was assaulted. And I think you can see that from the video. There was Mr. Al-Bajadi's here. He's the manager and one of the owners, and he assumed that the assistant manager called the police, and the assistant manager assumed that Mr. Al-Bajadi called the police. They offered this gentleman assistance, and as I said, Mr. Al-Bajadi's here to tell you that he stayed with this gentleman for 40-45 minutes just to make sure that he was okay and that he had no other issues. So, Mr. Al-Bajadi, you were there that night. You witnessed what happened?
I was there. I didn't see it happen, but I saw security being alerted by the bartender, who was visibly trying to wave down the security, who I happened to be standing next to.
So you went over, by the time you got there, this random, I guess, gentleman just walked right out the door, while everybody was attending to the victim.
That's correct. I went over to where the space, where it happened, to see, if anything else was going on. By that time, the person had left, and we had taken the victim up to the front area to get him a soft drink.
And yes, you and Mr. Antonucci spent some time with him just to make sure. Did you ask him if he wanted
I asked
medical
him.
attention?
I asked him if he required any medical attention, and he said no. He just liked the opportunity to just sit down and have a drink for a minute, a soft drink. We got him a Coke, and he just wanted to. He just wanted to sit down, and he was just confused as to why it happened. And we spoke to him for a good amount of time, asking him if anything had happened before, or if he knew this individual. And to both, he said no, he didn't know him, and there was no other run-in with him that evening. It just came out of the blue, as the video shows.
And so I know we gave the board the videos of the incident, but you have cameras for that, basically the majority of that night from different angles. Did anybody recognize this gentleman?
Our staff didn't recognize him, no.
And he just randomly walked out of around the bar and went up to this guy and interrupted him from his conversation, just started pummeling him.
Exactly as the video shows, yeah.
So when you and Mr. Antonucci were talking with him, did you assume that the police had been called?
I did, yes.
And did you assume Mr. Antonucci called the police?
Yes, it's protocol for any reason to call 911.
And did he assume that you called the police?
It was confusing because I was there. Nick was in the middle of shutting down the restaurant, and so he thought because I had been there, which is unusual, and intervened in the situation, that I was going to handle calling 911. And I thought, since he had walked away from us for a minute, that he had called 911. And then I had asked in front of Nick if he needed medical attention, and the gentleman declined. So I think Nick took that as 911 was called, but not medical attention.
So what did you do following this confusion and the with your management staff? What steps did you take?
Once we closed the restaurant down, we gathered all managers and just reminded everyone that there is no permission needed to call 911. There is nobody to ask. Even if you call twice, and if it's a mistake, it's fine. If they thought I called, if they didn't know who called, they could call. There's no permission needed. It was just confusion because I was there and I was speaking to him regarding medical attention. That's really what happened.
I don't have anything further, Madam Chair.
Thank you. We'll see if the board has any questions. Chairman Joyce?
Yeah, I just don't understand exactly why you didn't circle back with an incident like this to make sure that somebody on your staff had called the police.
Well, we know we're in a very busy district of the city, and we know that it's based on priority. I know that it can take some time for 911 to respond. And so being in a busy district in a time when a lot of places were shutting down, I thought there might have been other calls that might have superseded ours. So that's one of the reasons that we stayed there for so long with him. Nick was in the process of shutting down a restaurant, and I was there making sure the victim felt that he was tended to and make sure he was comfortable and that he could leave whenever he wanted, whenever he felt comfortable leaving. I really didn't think to call them.
Okay. Commissioner Saxon or Commissioner Curran, do you have any questions?
I do not, thank you.
No questions from me, thank you.
There are no further questions. The board will take this matter under advisement as well. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Calling item number 3, Smith and Walensky Atlantic Wharf LLC, doing business as Smith and Walensky, located at 290 Congress Street. Date of the incident, June 11th, 2024. Assault and battery, employee on employee in violation of Mass General Laws, Chapter 138, Section 64, and Chapter 265, Section 13A. Who is present on behalf of the licensee?
Good morning, Attorney Green, Madam Chair and Commissioners. Attorney Trish Farnsworth with Lawson and Whiteson, and with me is Kim Dinsmore from Smith and Walensky.
Thank you very much. Who is present on behalf of the Boston Police Department?
Officer Sarah Wyszynski, sir.
And Detective Kenneth Curley.
Thank you both. Are there any other individuals with firsthand knowledge of the alleged incident who wish to testify? Can you all please raise your right hand? Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you. Who will be reading the initial police report into the record for the board?
I will, sir.
Great. If you could please proceed.
About 6:34 p.m. on Tuesday, 6/11/24, Officer Wyszynski in the Alpha 426 Frank and Officer O'Connor in the Alpha 422 Frank responded to a radio call for an assault at 294 Congress Street, Boston. Sergeant Downey, the Alpha 910, assisted. Prior to arrival, dispatch stated the suspect was a black male in his 40s, who's approximately 6'2", heavy, and wearing a white button shirt with a vest and khaki pants. The suspect left the scene in an unknown direction. Upon arrival, officers spoke to the victim, manager Ian Powell, 922 of 86. Officer Wyszynski observed Powell's shirt was untucked, looked wrinkled, and there was blood on his left chest area. Powell stated he approached the suspect, an employee named Gene, who did not sign out for lunch. Powell stated he asked Gene to sign out, and Gene began to berate him and curse him out in Creole. Powell stated Gene spit on him and then attempted to punch him, but the punch missed. Powell stated he then placed Gene into a headlock, and that is when Gene bit his left nipple. Powell declined EMS transport and did not want officers to photograph the injury while he was at his workplace. Powell said he was just going to bring himself to the hospital, and he would text Officer Wyszynski's work phone of a photograph of the injury. Officer Wyszynski spoke to the other manager, Matthew Cuddy, 10/7/92. Cuddy stated he was on the patio attempting to set up a heat lamp when he observed two employees, Powell and Gene, fighting. Cuddy stated he started to walk over to separate the two parties when he observed both of them throwing punches. Cuddy stated he was upset the employees were fighting in front of patrons on the patio and was not sure what to do, so he contacted his manager. Officers asked Cuddy if he was able to provide Gene's demographics. He advised he does not have the access to it, but his boss, David Ciccarella, would be able to. Cuddy also advised he was unsure if the video surveillance footage would show the incident. Sergeant Downey conducted a Code 35 for the violation of A and B employee on employee license premise inspection notice number 017676 and body worn camera activated.
Thank you, Officer Wyszynski. Attorney Farnsworth, would you like to address the alleged incident?
Yes, thank you. Officer Wyszynski, was the staff at Smith and Walensky cooperative when you were on the premises?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and Mr. Powell, he did not, he declined any medical treatment from EMS.
Yes.
Okay, and that's all I have for Officer Wyszynski. I'd like to ask a few questions of Kim Dinsmore so she can explain the situation. Ms. Dinsmore, can you just give us your title?
I'm the Executive Vice President of PPX Hospitality, and I oversee HR and Employee Relations for Smith & Walensky.
Okay, and how long have you been with Smith & Walensky?
25 years.
Okay, and you were involved in this whole investigation of the incident?
Yes.
Okay, I guess just for way of background, so who is Ian Powell?
Ian Powell is a restaurant manager. He began his employment with us on October 13th, 1923 or 2023.
Okay. But he was there less than a year
Yes.
yes, okay. And then the other individual, Gene?
Gene was a busser that worked for us, and he began his employment on October 28th of 23, just a couple weeks after Ian.
Okay, perfect. And then what's your understanding based upon, everything that was said of why Ian and Gene had a discussion initially?
The understanding was, as we had been asking the restaurant to ensure our staffs were taking appropriate breaks, Ian looked into the system and noticed that Gene hadn't taken a break, so he was asking Gene to take a break. From what we understand from the statements from both the gentlemen, Gene felt that Ian was always coming after him, always targeting him for things. And so he was very frustrated with Ian, and he was not responding properly. And he was ignoring Ian's direction to clock out. I think there might have been a little bit of misunderstanding. Ian was just trying to get him to punch out for a break that he took. And I believe Gene felt that he was trying to send him home, and he didn't want to be sent home because he was the only one working.
Okay. And they were arguing face to face, but that seemed to escalate.
Yeah, so it began with the questioning inside the restaurant, and Gene basically refused Ian's direction to clock out and proceeded to walk out into the patio to do some work, clearing some tables. And we did have guests out there at the time. It was approximately 6:30 that evening. Ian followed him out in the patio, and you can see the two of them, that the whole thing is captured on video. You can see the two of them appearing to be confrontational verbally with each other. Ian approaches him. You can see Gene try to wave him off and kind of like shoo him away. Ian continues at him and continues the conversation. Gene tries to walk away from him again. You can see that the two of them kind of pointing at each other and getting aggressive with each other verbally. You can't hear it. There's no sound. And then at one point you can see Gene lift his hand like this and kind of like brushes Ian's face. And at that point, Ian threw a swing at him. Gene threw a swing back at them. And then Ian put Gene in a headlock. Ian is very, a much smaller gentleman than Gene. And so, it looks like that was his recourse, but he put him in the headlock, and he was not letting go. And then you can see on video, 3 other employees, the manager, Matt Cuddy, and 2 servers, Joel Dinan and Ziad, come in, and between the 3 of them try to pry them apart. And it was very difficult. Ian was not letting go. And like I said, I believe it took eventually Gene biting him to get him to let go and pull the gentleman apart. And then at that point, Gene ended up leaving the premises, and Ian made the call. Matt Cuddy, being relatively new with us, I'm sorry I don't have his hire date. Obviously, being his first experience with, coworkers fighting in the restaurant, wasn't exactly sure how to handle it. So he immediately reached out to his direct supervisor, Dave. And as he was doing that, Ian placed the call to 911. After the investigation, after the review of the videotape, Ian stated that the employee had spit on him. That is not seen at all in the video. Again, you just see the two of them going back and forth. Both employees were fired for their participation in a fight in the workplace. And just one other note, on November 1st of 2023, I conducted an HR meeting, which was very specifically instructed managers. I do this with all my new managers, that they are never to engage in fights with employees or arguments with employees. Even if they were to get a swing at them, their job is to step back. Even though maybe human nature says to engage, their job is to step back and to not engage, because that's not okay. And that would be grounds for termination. And so that was, part of the reason why we did, in fact, terminate both employees.
Right. You have the company has a 0 tolerance for any kind of physical contact in the workplace.
Yeah. Even if it's in defense of yourself, zero tolerance. And everybody is made aware of that. It's in the handbook, and it's part of the orientation process.
Right. And then we did submit that video. It's fairly brief. Really, this all happened within a matter of a minute or 2. And both were terminated, as Ms. Dinsmore stated. And I think, just for purposes, this is a a very nice restaurant, a, well-known establishment, well-run. And, this was very unusual to have this situation. But I think the restaurant, the other staff broke it up as quickly as they could. Really it was an embarrassing situation. There's customers there, clients there, it's out on the patio. But it was addressed, and I think it was just an unusual situation.
Thank you, Attorney Farnsworth. Ms. Dinsmore, anything further before we move to questions from the board?
No.
Okay, with that, we will see if there are any questions at this time. Chairwoman Joyce.
Thank you. I actually don't have any questions. Commissioner Saxon or Commissioner Curran?
Is there any video from inside so we could see, how long the precursor to the outside was?
I haven't looked for that video. There would be limited, the way the cameras are set up in the kitchen, we don't have a lot of cameras in the restaurant. I wouldn't be able to catch them all the way through the dining room. There might be something at the dish station where they started. But being 6 months ago, I'm not sure that we would have access to that anymore.
Okay, I can understand if you don't have it, but maybe in the future, something like this, with an assault and battery, I think our concern is really, could it have been prevented? I looked at the video, I agree with your interpretation of it, but really what we would want to know is whether, you could have intervened earlier and therefore no assault and battery would have occurred. So if you do have it, I'd appreciate it, but I understand if you don't. Thank you.
Nothing additional. Thank you.
Thank you. If there are no further questions, the board will take this matter under advisement as well. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for your time.
Calling item number 4, Lucy Management Corp. doing business as Lucy Drink and Dine located at 120A Huntington Ave. Date of the incident is July 13th, 2024. Assault and battery. Patron on employee ×2 in violation of Mass General Laws, Chapter 138, Section 64, and Chapter 265, Section 13A. Who's present on behalf of the licensee?
Nicholas Callius, I'm the Director of Food and Beverage. Chef Curtis Taylor, who's our chef on duty for the day, and HR Director Helen.
Sorry, what was the last name?
Helen Abdel Salam, HR Director.
Great. Thank you all. And who is present on behalf of the Boston Police Department?
Officer Dorvin Victor.
And Sergeant James Stoddard.
Are there any other individuals with firsthand knowledge of the alleged incident who wish to testify? Can you all please raise your right hand? Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you. Who will be reading the police report into the record?
I will. Officer Victor.
You may please
About 1:20 p.m. on Saturday, July 13th, Officer Victor and my partner Alexander in the Delta 101 were flagged down at 120 Huntington Ave at Lucy's Drink and Dine and Colonnade Hotel. Also responding to the scene was the Kilo 908 Sergeant Murphy. Officer was flagged down by the hotel security. Victim 1, later identified as Barbara Ohm, when clearing from a previous call. Ohm stated that the suspect, Montrell Borkins, pushed her and tried to get to the Curtis Taylor Scott, victim number 2, when they tried escorting the suspect off the premises. Scott stated the suspect appeared to be highly intoxicated and was given multiple chances to leave, but the suspect kept returning to the establishment. Ohm and Scott stated they tried stopping the suspect from re-entering the restaurant. Suspect continued to push the revolving door towards the victims. That's when Ohms observed a marked cruiser while calling 911 and flagged reporting officers to stop. Scott also stated that he was hit by the revolving doors while the suspect was pushing back trying to re-enter the premises. Officer also spoke to the victim, the third victim, known to the Commonwealth, report number 242-057-649. Victim number 3 stated that the suspect requested for her to come to where he was seated at the bar. Victim number 3 continued to state that the suspect asked where the bathroom is located. Victim number 3 escorted the suspect to where the bathroom was located. Victim number 3 then stated that when the suspect grabbed her by the wrist, he attempted to pull her to the men's restroom. Victim number 3 then stated the suspect then smacked her on her buttocks. Victim number 3 was able to get away from the suspect and report the matter to the hotel security. Officer then approached the suspect when stated he had 2 drinks and that the suspect was pushed by Scott. The suspect stated that he was staying at a hotel across the street. Suspect appeared to be under the influence and unable to stand on his own will. Suspect was observed leaning from side to side. Suspect was observed slurring his words and not able to answer officers' questions. Suspect was instructed to have a seat for his own safety. Suspect was asked if he was aware of what happened. Suspect continued to state to officer he didn't do anything. Officer were unable to get clear explanation of what took place from the suspect. Officers at the time applied wrist restraint to the suspect and placed the suspect in the cruiser. The suspect was informed that he was being trespassed by the hotel and the restaurant. The suspect was informed that the hotel made it known the suspect is no longer a guest at the hotel. He could pick up his belongings at the front desk with an escort from the police. The suspect was placed under arrest and transferred to National Street Jail for booking. The suspect will be charged to Boston Municipal Court for the following: 2 assaults of A and B, Chapter 265, Section 13A, and indecent A and B on a person 14 and over, Chapter 265, Section 13H. Sergeant Strada, the Delta 913, performed a Code 35 citation, citation number 039734, on Lucy Restaurant, 120 Huntington Ave. The sexual assault unit was notified. Sergeant Detective Barrett and Detective McDonough. Body-worn cameras were activated.
Thank you very much, officer. Would the licensee like to address the alleged incident?
Absolutely. Thank you for giving us this time. So I did part of the investigation. I'm the director of food and beverage once again at the Colonnade Hotel, and we did part of the investigation, looking at all the videos, which we sent over to the police department, a number of videos throughout the whole day. The suspect was also a hotel registered guest with us. So the video that we saw that shows no swaying of movement, no head falling or anything like that. They seemed very cognizant at the bar. He had 1 drink, which he only took 2 sips. Our bartenders are all fully tip certified, and they are very understanding if anyone seems intoxicated whatsoever that we don't serve. Being middle day, he had some food, he had some water, and it does show that he did try to grab the first person, the manager, that he tried to pull to the bathroom at the bar. The videos show her walking him to the bathroom, but unfortunately, that's kind of where it stops by the angles of the cameras. But it does show intent where he does grab her hand, grab her arm at the bar. And at that point, I'm going to turn it over to Chef Curtis, who entered the story with him going outside because she went and kind of grabbed Chef Curtis to see what was going on. So Chef Curtis, if you could explain.
Hi, welcome. Thank you for the opportunity. My name is Curtis Taylor. I'm the executive sous chef at the Colonnade at Lucy's. So to follow up on Chef Nick, Angelise had come into the middle room. She said that the guest was being very erratic and odd. I approached him. I asked him to go outside because he was being erratic. I sat him outside for 10 or 15 minutes, tried to talk him off the ledge. He then became very erratic, got up, started pointing at me, name calling, very derogatory name calling. He walked across the street, and then he turned around, he started pointing at me. Again, name calling and pointing directly at me, and that's when I asked security to call for the police. And that's when they just happened to turn the corner and we flagged him down.
From that point, the police took over everything from there. As I said, our staff is very well versed on TIPS certification, and we did send all the videos for all the angles that we had. I think we kind of overshared. We had a lot of videos there to kind of go through with what happened.
Thank you. I don't believe those videos have been provided to the board. Do you know where those videos ended up?
Yes.
Yes.
That will be, I took it to the court. It was the municipal court in Boston that they were all provided to.
Okay, and if the board requests them, can they be provided to the board? Do you still have access to them?
Absolutely, we have saved.
Great, thank you. Anything further before we move to questions from the board?
Sure, can I please add one thing?
Absolutely.
I was not the patrol supervisor during this incident. I logged on a few hours after this incident, but I did respond and I dealt with the staff when I was issuing the violation. Completely cooperative. They took me back where the licenses were posted. They were very cooperative with our investigation.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. With that, we'll see if there are any questions from the board at this time. Chairwoman Joyce.
Thank you. I'll wait to review the video, but the police report says that this person was highly intoxicated, and your testimony is that he only had one drink while there.
Yes. Looking at the video, seeing him at the bar, he was not in the restaurant for that long. He had some food, he had water, he had one glass of wine where he took about 2 sips, and that was it. You see him moving around the bar a little bit here and there, but he doesn't show any swaying of movement. He doesn't, you know, when people are intoxicated, they're leaning on the bar or anything like that. No visual signs of him being intoxicated by the video.
Okay. Thank you very much. Commissioner Saxon or Commissioner Kern, do you have any questions?
Yeah, what was described in the police report says victim number 2 reported the matter to hotel security. Who is it reported to? Is that person with us? And if they are or they aren't, do you have any idea of like how was that incident described to them in that moment?
I apologize, but you broke up in the first half. You don't mind replacing that, please?
So victim number 3 from the police report reports, you know, the incident and also that it was reported to hotel security. What were the details of that report in that moment?
In that moment, it was that he tried to grab the victim of 3 is Angelise, who's our supervisor, no one who works here at the hotel. But she said that he tried to grab her. She reported it to security, she reported it to Chef Curtis, and then she reported it to me. And that's when I looked at the videos and I could see him touching her arm at the bar, grabbing her hand like he wants to hold her hand. And when she walks away, following her to the beverage prep area. And then another camera shows her walking into the bathroom.
Yeah, and you said that video kind of doesn't catch the bathroom area, right?
Fortunately, it doesn't catch the bathroom area or where he says that she says that he grabbed her in the behind. It clearly just shows the bar pieces where he's trying to grab her hand, he's trying to touch her arm, things like that.
Okay, so that's what I'm getting at. In the moment, she did describe him touching her inappropriately, right?
Yeah, he did. She said that he grazed her behind. She tried to grab me, and he grazed my behind, was her exact words.
Okay. All right, that's I wanted that clarification. Thank you.
If you could just reiterate just some of the timeline, just general. He was sitting at the bar, he looked fine for about how long, and then when did he start acting erratic?
About 12:30 or so, you see him at the bar, having some food boxed up to go, having some water. I think it was about 12:45 or so, maybe a little after, he gets a glass of wine. He takes one sip, looks like he goes to the restroom, he comes back, he sits in another chair next to another patron at the hotel, at the bar, brings over the bartender brings over his wine, he has another sip, and then he calls over for Angelise to come over and talk to him. He's talking to her a little bit, and then she grabs another menu. Looks like he's looking to order more food, and that's when you see him kind of grab her arm, grab her hand, and then she walks away, goes to the back area, and that's where he follows her, and then she brings him to the bathroom, and that's where kind of things started turning. So that was all between like 12:45 or so to about 1:30, 1:45, and then you see Chef Curtis come into the fold, and he goes outside for a while with them, and then probably about 15 minutes later or so, you see him walking back into the restaurant and literally walk around the restaurant and walk out, and then the police show up probably 10 minutes later.
Thank you.
Any further questions at this time from the board? Okay, please do submit all available video to the board for the board's review. You can either send that through email to licensingboard@boston.gov, or if it's on a physical thumb drive, it can be dropped off to our office room 809 at City Hall.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you very much. For that, the board will take this under advisement for now while we await the submission of the video. Thank you. Calling item number 5, Concord Entertainment, Inc., doing business as Bill's Bar, the Lansdowne Pub, located at 9 Lansdowne Street, dated the incident July 13th, 2024. Assault and battery, employee on patron, in violation of Mass General Laws, Chapter 138, Section 64, and Chapter 265, Section 13A. Who's present on behalf of the licensee?
Good morning, Attorney Green. Dennis Quilty, attorney representing the licensee. With me this morning are Katina Corapines, the risk manager for the Lions Group, Mike Livingston and Wayne Miller, employees who were on duty on the night in question. And good morning, Madam Chair and members of the board. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I do see Ms. Corapines. I do not see Mr. Livingstone or Mr. Miller. If they are with us, please make sure that your cameras are on so we can swear you in and you can provide your testimony.
Yeah, I can't see them. Katina, do you know if Mike's on? I think he had trouble getting on earlier, but
I was told he was on.
Oh, the Zoom user named Mike. Is that you, Mr. Livingstone?
Yes, sir. I'm
Great.
trying to make sure my phone doesn't think it just boot me out and I had to log back in.
That's great. Thank you. We do see that you are with us. I do not see Mr. Miller anywhere.
Mr. Livingston is the most important witness for us, so
Thank you very much.
as long as he's here.
Great. We will proceed. Who is present on behalf of the Boston Police Department?
This was a walk-in, so I don't know.
Detective Texera should be here.
Yes.
Yes, Detective Norman Texera, Boston Police.
Great. Thank you very much. Are there any other individuals with firsthand knowledge of the alleged incident who wish to testify? Can you all please raise your right hand? Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, sir.
I do.
Thank you. Detective Texera, if you could please read the police report into the record for the board.
Yes, the report reads as follows. At 3:38 p.m. on Monday, July 15th, 2024, Cadet Guerrero, stationed at the front desk of Boston Police District 4, was approached by Daniel Hoffman, who appeared to be in pain, clutching the left side of his ribs. He requested to file a police report regarding an assault at Bill's Bar and Lounge. Hoffman, a member of the band performing at Lansdowne Pub at 9 Lansdowne Street on July 13th, 2024, explained that after 10 p.m. performance, he was socializing with band members and friends.
Breaking up pretty badly.
Yeah, Detective, your audio is breaking up pretty badly at the moment.
Located at 5 Lansdowne Street. He stated, let's start from the beginning.
Let's see. Okay, just try speaking. Maybe we can hear you better. I'm not sure.
Is this better?
Yeah, maybe we'll do shut off the video just for better bandwidth.
Okay.
Yeah. There we go. I don't know if you want to start over, Detective.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you now.
Okay. I'll start from the beginning. At 3:38 p.m. on Monday, July 15th, Cadet Guerrero, stationed at the front desk at Boston Police District 4, was approached by Daniel Hoffman, who appeared to be in pain, clutching the left side of his ribs. He requested to file a police report regarding an assault at Bill's Bar and Lounge. Hoffman, a member of the band performing at Lansdowne Pub, located at 9 Lansdowne Street, on July 13th, 2024, explained that after 10 p.m. performance, he was socializing with band members and friends at Bill's Bar, located at 5 Lansdowne Street. He stated he was sober and not behaving inappropriately. Shortly after heading to the bathroom at Bill's Bar, Hoffman felt someone push him from behind and grab his neck, shirt, and shoulder. He couldn't identify the individuals since they were behind him. However, he believed it to be 4 to 5 men who attacked him. They punched him multiple times in the ribs. Instinctively, Hoffman grabbed one of the suspect's shirts and turned to see a very tall African-American male with stubbly gray hair whom he recognized as a bouncer at Bill's bar. He couldn't describe the other attackers due to the intensity of the assault. The attackers dispersed when Hoffman threatened to call 911. Bill's bar staff instructed him to leave, to which he briefly did, returning later to try to obtain the bouncers' names, but they refused to provide any information. He finally left around 1:30 a.m. The following morning, Hoffman sought medical attention at Beth Israel Medical Center due to excruciating pain in his left rib area. Medical examinations revealed microfractures and bruising. Hoffman states that he does not know the motive behind the attack. He requested documentation of the incident for safety purposes and asked D4 detectives to review Bill's bar surveillance footage to help identify individuals involved. It's essentially the original report on July 16th, 2024. At about 7:40 p.m., myself and Detective Govon responded to Bill's bar located at 5 Lansdowne Street to conduct a Code 35. Detectives met with manager Lindsay Diozzi, who escorted officers to the visibly displayed licenses. Bill's bar was issued a City of Boston license premise violation number 016901 for assault and battery employee on patron. Diozzi was given a copy of the violation in hand. That's essentially the reports that were written. I did follow up and was forwarded video of the incident.
Great. Thank you, Detective. And I know that there was video that we could not access. I've requested access to that. So if you could send that directly to the board, that would be very helpful.
I can send it as well.
Thank you. With that, Attorney Quilty, would you like to address the alleged incident?
If I may just ask the detective a few questions. Detective Teixeira, you were assigned to this case after the report,
Yes,
and you received the video from the staff at Bill's Bar. Is that correct?
yes.
Okay. With regard to your having read the report, this was a so-called walk-in to the station by a civilian. So you have no personal knowledge of the incident itself. You're just reading the report from that walk-in.
Correct.
Okay. Thank you, sir. And did the staff cooperate with you when you did go back there to review things?
Yes.
Okay.
Also, as part of the investigation, I did follow up with the victim.
Yes. Okay. And did you ever discuss or have a conversation or interview Mr. Livingston in this matter?
No.
Okay. The review work that we've done in this matter would indicate that it's Mr. Livingston who was actually the person attacked in this matter by the walk-in individual. Mr. Livingston is a sound engineer at the establishment. The complainant here, if you will, was actually performing in a band earlier that evening at the establishment. He's known to most of the individuals at the establishment. After his shift, if you will, after his band stopped playing, he stayed around and for some reason it got into it with Mr. Livingston. Mr. Livingston was basically attacked by this individual, who then 2 days later walked into the police station to complain that he was the victim. The video was provided. Mr. Livingston is here to tell you to give you his testimony, but again, our position is that he's the person who was attacked by the so-called victim in this case. If I may just ask Mr. Livingston to give a statement. Mr. Green, may I do that? Yes?
Yes, you may.
Okay, go ahead. Mike, would you just go ahead and state your name for the record? You've been sworn. You're muted, Mike.
You're on mute. I've just asked you to unmute. Here we go.
Yeah,
Just state your name for the record, Mike.
Michael Percy Livingston.
Okay, and you've already been sworn. What's your, do you work at Bill's Bar?
Yes, I am the lead technician and engineer for on Lansdowne Street, Bill's Bar, Lansdowne Pub.
Okay. So, excuse me. So on the night in question, were you working in that capacity?
Yes, I was at work at the time of the incident. Yes.
Okay. And at some point, did this gentleman, Mr. Hoffman, did he approach you?
So at the time of the incident, as he was when the incident took place, he was passing me and he stumbled upon me. When he stumbled upon me, I said, "Hey, bud, you seem a bit staggerish. You all right?" "Well, I'm fine. F you. You don't know who I am." "Okay. Apparently you're belligerent. You got to go." I was able to flag down a security officer. Terrell. I do believe his name is Terrell. I'm horrible with names. Sorry. Terrell. Flag down Terrell. Terrell's like, "Hey, bud, you got to go." I'm like, "Yeah, you got to go." He's like, "Oh, I'm the musician. I played here earlier. Why are you kicking me out?" I said, "Oh, you are?" I said, "Well, you got to go regardless. You know, you're belligerent. You seem a bit over the edge. You are right now a liability to the establishment." So Mr. Terrell went to go help him, like not help him, but like, "Hey, bud, let's go." Like give an arm around kind of vibe, like, "Hey, bud, let's go. You know, it's time to go." "Oh, no, I'm not going anywhere. Come on, bud, it's time to go." So now I'm walking next to them. Next thing you know, he grabs upon my chest and the flesh of my skin and everything. So I was grabbing like, "Hey, bud, you need to go. Let me go. Let me go." I said like 5 times. "Let me go. Let me go. Let me go." "Well, let me go." I kind of like nudge him a little. "Let me go. Let me go." We're walking across the dance floor now. And I'm like, "Let me go." Security's escorting him. He's dragging me along with him. I'm like, "Let me go. Let me go. Let me go." Boom. I kind of nudge him again. And that's when he finally let go. We're all outside talking now. And he's out there talking with us for like an hour and a half, 2 hours. And he disappears and comes back. And then the musicians that were playing in Bill's now in the later half of the evening know him personally because the band manager was the bass player of that band that played in Bill's at night. When they were playing in the pub earlier, he was their lead singer. And the guy that the assailant, the individual, he was their drummer. So they came outside now at their break because there's 3 sets each band plays late night. So after their second set, I texted Rick. Rick is in there. I texted Rick. I said, "Rick, you know, your drummer from earlier is out here, you know, giving us trouble. You know, come talk to him." They all came outside. "Hey, what are you doing? Go home, man. What's your problem? What are you causing trouble, man? You're making us look bad. It's very unprofessional. Go home." And that was the end of the story. Oh, actually, no, I'm sorry. And then while we were out there talking with him, he kind of like spit on Wayne. Like, and there was a big like Louis on Wayne's shirt. And then that was like this, like a whole thing. It was like, "Dude, just go home, go home." And then he disappeared after like maybe 2 a.m. because he was out there till like 2:15. No exaggeration. Even Rick, when I was communicating with Rick and I told Rick, "Hey, I have the hearing about the incident with the drummer." And he says, "Hey, you do? Why? Why is there an incident?" And blah, 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 blah. He caused trouble. He was hanging around. And, you know, I have the text right here from yesterday. He even mentioned it. He's like, "Hey, why would the musician give you guys trouble when he was in the wrong?" And I'll read it right here. It says, "If you guys roughed him up so bad, why did he stick around outside for 2 hours despite all of us asking him to leave and offering him rides?"
So can you tell the board, Mike, Mr. Livingston, did you punch this guy in the ribs or strike him in any way?
I didn't punch him in the ribs, but I did kind of like nudge him on his chest for him to let me go because he was grabbing upon me. So I nudged him.
Okay. So you took defensive posture with him to get him off of you?
Yes.
Okay. And then your testimony is that he then stuck around, so he was continued to speak and talk to everybody, the other band members, yourself, etc.
If you guys have the footage, I know the footage was pulled. I'm not sure if you guys have it, but
yeah,
I even saw the footage myself of rewatching the footage of us all standing outside talking, like as if nothing ever happened. And I'm telling him like he was wrong and he apologized and, you know, things of that nature, you know, and I told him, I said, "Hey, you know, you caused big trouble here and made a scene. I don't think I'm going to want to book the band again or even have you work in the rooms again as a musician." And that was it. And then, yeah.
And Thank you. The board may have some questions, but can I just inquire again, Attorney Green, if Mr. Miller is with us?
I got a text that he is.
Huh.
I do see
Wayne.
Wayne, who has.
Yeah, I'm looking. Wayne, if you're on the Zoom, Wayne, could you please put your camera on?
I'm here, guys.
There we go.
Oh,
There he is.
Mr. Miller, could you please raise your right hand? You have not been sworn in yet. You swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you. Attorney Quilty, did you have some questions for Mr. Miller?
Yes, if I may. Thank you, Attorney Green. Mr. Miller, you have been sworn now. Just state your name for the record and were you employed at Bill's Bar on the night in question?
Wayne Ross Miller, and yes, I was.
Okay. And did you just hear the testimony of Mr. Livingston?
Yes, I did.
Did you observe this incident take place?
Yeah, I seen the majority of everything happen.
All right. And can you just describe in your words to the board what you saw, what happened?
Well, where I entered the situation, I was walking down the ramp into Bill's, and I seen Mike, Terrell, and the third party exiting the building. At that point, I was inquiring to Mike what happened. They told me what happened. And I tried to defuse the situation, told Terrell to go back inside, and I continued to talk to the gentleman to try to calm him down. That's when he ended up spitting on me, and it was a confusing situation because we had seen the gentleman all night, and I was just trying to talk to him and calm him down. At that point, it was just like, listen, man, like, you're a member of the band, you know what I mean? Just go home. There's no need for no issues. We decided at that point that, yeah, he just needed to go home.
And then, so were you there with Mr. Livingston?
Yes, I was.
And did you observe the Mr. Hoffman grab Mr. Livingston by the shirt?
When I walked up to them, Mike was currently being dragged by his chest. Yeah.
Okay. And did you see him, disengage Mr. Hoffman? Did you see him push Mr. Hoffman off of himself?
Yeah.
Okay. And would you describe what
it was a
motion?
Yeah, it was pushing him to get off of him, and then I saw he pushed him, and that was it. That's when Terrell got him up the ramp.
Okay. So, in your opinion, who was the aggressor here, Mr. Hoffman or Mr. Livingston?
Definitely, Mr. Hoffman was aggressive the entire time we encountered the gentleman.
Okay.
Even after outside, he was aggressive.
Okay. Thank you, sir. The board may have some questions for you. Thank you.
No problem at all.
Thank you. With that, we will see if the board does have any questions. Chairman Joyce.
Thanks. Is there an explanation why police wasn't called and this became an incident a few days later from a walk-in?
I think, Madam Chair, this is a human nature story. The person was well known to the establishment. Person had performed that very night in a band. They were trying basically to do the guy a solid and say, just get out of here. We know you. We don't want you to get in trouble. I mean, should they technically, yes, should have called the police. I think they just tried to, do the right thing by the guy and say, go home. And that's really the only explanation.
We're having trouble playing the video. I know some people can play it on some devices. Danny's telling me he can't open the video, so we'll have to work with your team to figure out how we can view it.
Will, Katina, you
I will, yeah, I have the video. I actually haven't sent it to the board yet. I don't know if that video came from Detective Texera, but I will send it when we're done today. I have it all ready and queued up since I've already sent whatever footage I sent to the detective, I will send to you. And I can just give you a brief explanation. And when I send the footage, I'll include our IT director. That way, if you guys have any issues, he has exactly what I sent you and he can jump in and assist. But there are the surveillance from that night. There are two camera angles. The first camera angle is labeled Bill's Bar main floor. And at about 11:06 and 11:06:19, you see two staff members taking out a Caucasian male with dark hair in a white t-shirt and black pants or jeans. Once the staff member is behind him, holding him by the arms and pushing him forward, the patron then grabs another staff member's shirt and doesn't let it go. I believe this is Mr. Hoffman grabbing Mr. Livingston. The staff member that the patron is holding on to is the sound engineer. As Mr. Hoffman is being ejected, he's grabbing him by the shirt, but when he's grabbing him by the shirt, he's also grabbing his skin. And I think he actually, when he was grabbing his skin, he was also grabbing and pinching Mr. Livingston's nipple area.
Flesh of my chest.
Yep. So Mr. Livingston you see him struggling, trying to get free. And it's essentially Mr. Terrell is behind is kind of pushing Mr. Hoffman from behind. And Mr. Hoffman is grabbing Mr. Livingston and kind of dragging him along. Mr. Livingston is struggling to get free from the patron's grip, and he's pushing him, trying to break free and get away. And you see him strike Mr. Hoffman twice. Mr. Hoffman finally releases his grip, and then you see Terrell walk Mr. Hoffman up the stairs, the ramp that is to the to the front entrance exit of Bill's Bar. The second, and that takes place, that's about from 11:06:19 to 11:06:38. The second camera angle is Bill's Bar front door. It's about 23 minutes of footage on this camera angle, and it shows Mr. Hoffman standing outside of Bill's Bar, arguing with the security staff that's outside and bothering patrons who are trying to enter.
And you'll provide that today?
Yes, and I will send that today. Yep. And I will make sure that I include our IT director. That way, if you have issues viewing my version, we can get you assistance right away.
Thank you.
Thank you. Chairman Joyce, do you have any other questions?
No questions, thanks.
Commissioner Carmen, Commissioner Saxon.
Yeah, just wait for the video. Thank you.
No questions from me. Thank you.
Great. With that, we will await the submission of the video, which I will provide to the board, and the board will take this matter under advisement in the meantime. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Calling item number 6, Irish Village, Inc., doing business as Irish Village, located at 224 to 226 Market Street in Brighton. Date of the incident, August 26th, 2024. Assault and battery, outside premise, in violation of Mass General Laws, Chapter 138, Section 64, and Chapter 265, Section 13A. Who is present on behalf of the licensee?
Patrick Lee and Chris Fitzgerald.
Thank you. I don't believe I see Mr. Fitzgerald. I do see Mr. Fitzgerald in the attendee list. Mr. Fitzgerald, if you are planning to provide testimony, please do turn your camera on so we can swear you in. In the meantime, I will ask who is present on behalf of the Boston Police Department.
Sorry, just a moment, getting the camera.
Oh, sure.
Officer Hassan, Boston Police.
Thank you, Officer Hassan. Officer Coleman, you as well? I see you raising your hand.
Yes, sir. Officer Coleman available.
Thank you very much. Are there any other individuals with firsthand knowledge of the alleged incident who wish to testify? Can you all please raise your right hand? Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
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 Thank you. Who will be reading the police report into the record?
That'll be me, Officer Hassan.
Thank you very much.
All right, I'll begin. Police report reads as follows. About 9:23 p.m. on Monday, August 26, 2024, Officers Hassan and Miriam in the Kilo 202 Frank responded to a radio call for an assault and battery in progress at 224 Market Street, Brighton. Upon arrival, the officers made contact with an uncooperative victim who identified himself as John Joseph. Joseph appeared heavily intoxicated, and officers observed him to have scratches on his forearm, his shirt ripped, and also missing a shoe. He stated that he was attacked by an unknown individual and that person took off prior to officers' arrival. Joseph did not want to give us a phone number or any other information. He was asked if he wanted to be evaluated for his injuries by Boston EMS, to which he declined several times. Officers spoke to witnesses who stated that Joseph was the aggressor. The witness/bartender, Chris Fitzgerald, stated that Joseph came into the bar and was visibly under the influence. Fitzgerald stated that he served him about 1.5 beers, and that is when he asked Joseph to leave due to him bothering other patrons. He was escorted out of the establishment. When escorted out of the premise, Joseph was involved in a physical altercation with an unknown party. No other victims made themselves known to officers. Patrol supervisor, Kilo 908, Sergeant Murphy responded to conducted code 35. Violation number 3714 was issued. Joseph walked away from officers. The officer's body-worn camera was activated at the time. And that's the conclusion.
Thank you. We have an additional report as well. Officer Coleman, I believe that's yours.
Yes, sir. So a supplemental report, at about 10 p.m. on Thursday, August 29th, 2024, Officer Coleman of the Kilo Delta 96 Frank took a walk-in supplemental report at the front desk of District 14, Brighton Alston, 301 Washington Street, Brighton, for an assault and battery that occurred at about 9:30 p.m. on August 26, 2024 at 224 Market Street, Brighton. The victim, Brendan Rory O'Connor, reported that on August 26, 2024, he was punched and kicked by a suspect known to the victim O'Connor as Max Courtney. The victim O'Connor stated the suspect Courtney is a musician and is on Facebook. The victim O'Connor stated he was intoxicated during the incident. However, the victim O'Connor stated he attempted to resolve the incident with the suspect Courtney. The victim O'Connor stated he was concerned that the suspect Courtney would portray him, O'Connor, as the suspect. The victim O'Connor showed Officer Coleman his injuries. Officer Coleman observed the victim's injuries on photographs he, O'Connor, took on his cellular phone. Officer Coleman observed injuries, contusions, and lacerations on the victim O'Connor's head, both eyes, left wrist, left elbow, left rib, and left foot. The victim O'Connor stated the injuries were from when he was kicked and punched by the suspect Courtney. District 14 detectives were advised of the incident, but were unable to take photos due to a missing child incident, P240437608.
Thank you, Mr. Lee. Mr. Fitzgerald, would you like to address the alleged incident?
Sure. So we submitted Chris Fitzgerald submitted a contemporaneous account of what happened that night, which I think the board has. Maybe at some point Chris will be able to join us and he can walk through that and answer some questions that the board may have. But I think he did a pretty good job of being very specific in how this whole incident unfolded. And the officers, I think, also portray the situation similarly in that the gentleman that they found outside was the actual aggressor, and the man that came to the police department after was the man who was trying to de-escalate the situation. Unfortunately, Mr. Courtney was a little out of control, and everything that the bartender manager, Chris, tried to do that night to de-escalate the situation didn't work. Then Mr. O'Connor tried to help Mr. Courtney. That didn't work, and a passerby called the police, and they responded.
Hello, I am here on the call. I'm sorry, I'm not sure if this is working or not.
Yep, we do. Yep, and you've had been sworn in.
Oh, okay, perfect. Sorry.
Yep. So, Mr. Fitzgerald, anything you would like to add for the board?
The only thing that I find in confliction with my statement is that the officer states that I reported that he was intoxicated when he entered the establishment around 9:30. He was not intoxicated when he entered the establishment. I served him 1 20-ounce Guinness, which he drank half of. And then I served him a vodka soda. After the vodka soda, which he was served and drank, then he started to begin to act erratic. This was all within the maybe an hour at most that he was at the establishment. So I just wanted to be clear that he did not enter the bar acting or appearing intoxicated.
Thank you. With that, we will see if there are any questions from the board at this time. Chairman Joyce, any questions?
Yeah. So in your own words, so we have Mr. Courtney, we have, who's John Joseph? Was that an alias? I'm just confused. I'm only reading Mr. Fitzgerald's incident report now, so it's kind of hard for me to keep up with the players here.
Yes, John Joseph, alias. He gave us a fake name. So that's what he told us his name was. That's why I have it in quotations on the report.
Okay, but he's really
Mr. Courtney.
Yeah, he's really Courtney. Yeah.
And you're saying Mr. Courtney was the aggressor?
That's correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
So in the police report, I'm just trying to toggle back and forth. It says when he arrived, he was highly intoxicated. And then Mr. Fitzgerald's report doesn't calls him acted in a slightly odd manner, but not alarming. Can you speak a little bit more to that? Your observations when this person walked in?
You're speaking to me?
Yeah.
Yes, no problem at all. I mean, when he came in, he was friendly with the gentleman that with Mr. O'Connor. So they were, enjoying their time, but like I said, he spoke clearly. He didn't have slurred speech or bloodshot eyes. He wasn't stumbling or having issues conducting himself there. So, he seemed a little odd in the sense that, I don't know, just his personality, I would say in that sense, but nothing that would, raise any flags in the sense of being intoxicated or inebriated to the point where I felt uncomfortable serving him.
Okay.
So I did. And then, but quickly after he had a half a beer and then switched to a vodka soda. Very shortly after that, vodka soda was consumed, he started to act completely belligerent, which is when I made the decision that, he was no longer going to be served. He made some crude and crass comments to some of the other people in the establishment, and that was when I was going to make the decision that, I didn't want him present in the establishment any longer, which led to the escalating events of me asking him to, informing him that he wouldn't be served any longer, that he was also, going to be asked to leave. This occurred outside. And that's when the aggression came from him.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
All right, I don't have any questions. I want to see if Commissioner Saxon has any questions.
Not at this time, thank you.
Thank you. If there are no further questions from the board, then the board will take this matter under advisement as well. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you much.
Calling item number 7, Rude Intentions LLC, doing business as the Fourth Wall, located at 228 Tremont Street. Date of the incident, September 7th, 2024. Assault and battery, employee on patron, in violation of Mass General Laws, Chapter 138, Section 64, and Chapter 265, Section 13A. Who's present on behalf of the licensee?
Good morning, Attorney Green, Madam Chair, members of the board. Carolyn Conway on behalf of the licensee, and I have with me today Mr. Richard Melville, who is the operations manager, and also Mr. Derek Brady, who is the owner and manager of the establishment.
Thank you very much. Who's present on behalf of the Boston Police Department?
Officer O'Neill.
Thank you, officer. Are there any other individuals with firsthand knowledge of the alleged incident who wish to testify?
Good morning, Sergeant Carl Dugal, Boston Police.
Thank you, Sergeant Dugal. Can you all please raise your right hand? Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you. Who will be reading the police report into the record for the board?
Officer O'Neill.
Great. You may please proceed.
About 2:30 a.m. Saturday, 9/7/24, officers O'Neill and Bowman in the Alpha 103 Alpha responded to a radio call for an assault in progress at 228 Tremont Street, Boston, the Fourth Wall. On arrival, officers spoke with the caller, Gabriel Lyman, who stated that he was struck twice with a closed fist by an employee of the Fourth Wall bar. Lyman stated he was 17 years old, under the influence of alcohol, and doesn't fully remember what occurred. Officers observed redness and swelling to Lyman's right eye. Officers then entered the Fourth Wall and spoke to the employee, John Fabiano, who stated he is currently an employee of the bar, but was there as a patron when Lyman attempted to enter the bar. Fabiano states Lyman then began to poke him in the chest multiple times, slapped him in the face, and attempted to swing at him. Fabiano told officers he then struck Lyman with a single punch. Fabiano denied all medical services on scene. Patrol Supervisor Sergeant Whiteman arrived on scene and conducted a licensed premise inspection, number 017654. Officers attempted to contact Lyman's father, Daniel Lyman, via Officers Department issued cell phones to no avail. Boston Emergency Medical Services, EMS, ambulance 815 arrived on scene and transported Lyman to Boston Children's Hospital for further evaluation.
Thank you, Officer O'Neill. Attorney Conway, would you like to address the alleged incident?
Yes, Officer O'Neill, can you confirm that the management was cooperated with you on that evening when you went inside?
Yes, they're very cooperative.
Thank you very much. We have, this morning I submitted the video, Attorney Green, did you get that? I emailed it directly to you. So we have submitted a video of the incident, which took place outside of the premises. You can see that it was literally less than a minute long. We have done an extensive review. The person who was an employee that night but not working went inside and kind of downplayed it and basically told us that nothing really happened. And that's why the police were not called by our establishment, because it is our strict policy that no matter what, 911 is called. But we did go through the video that we have submitted to you, and that the person, Mr. Fabiano, was let go immediately the next day. And we have had new employee meetings to go over that. Mr. Melville is here to testify as to the strict procedures that are in place for this premises. And it just appears that this young man who tried to get into the premises proves why minors shouldn't drink, but he was not in our premises that night.
Thank you. Anything further before we move to questions from the board?
No.
Great. Chairman Joyce, any questions?
I have not seen the video yet because I think you sent it right as we were logging on to the hearing. So you're saying that this 17-year-old was never admitted to the bar? He never was?
No. Okay. He's wearing a gray short sleeve t-shirt. Mr. Fabiano has a long sleeve white Henley type of shirt on in the video. So they're towards the upper left-hand corner. And in the video, nothing happens for about the first 30 seconds of the video.
All right, and you're saying that this patron / employee Fabiano was at the door, seeing him get turned away at the door? Is that what was happening?
No, Mr. Fabiano was outside having a cigarette.
Oh.
And you can see that that he's approached outside by this gentleman and kind of blocks his entry to go in. But he was not acting as a door person. He was just outside having a cigarette.
Okay. I don't have any questions. Commissioner Saxon or Commissioner Curran?
What time did it occur? Is the timestamp on the video accurate?
Yes. It looks like it's at right at closing, so
it's right when all the restaurants and bars were closing.
Yeah, 2:02.
Yeah.
Would you normally have staff outside at that time, monitoring the adjacent space?
It's a small restaurant, so staff might be inside. There's one person that might be working and asking people to leave at that time. They go back and forth.
I don't have it in front of me. What is your capacity?
I believe it. Go ahead, Dickie. Is it 65?
64 people.
64.
Okay, and what was your staffing that night? Just regular staff, and did you have any security?
We had security on, yes.
Okay, how many security, and how would they have been staffed at closing time like that?
One security.
And where's their duty to be at 2 o'clock?
He's getting guests out of the bar at that point. I believe on the video, Cam is at the front door.
So he's in the video. I saw the video. Which one is he?
Black fourth wall hoodie.
Okay. Does he do anything in this altercation? Did you intervene?
No.
Okay, thank you.
Nothing additional, thank you.
Thank you. If there are no further questions, the board will take this under advisement as well. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Calling item number 8, Castillo Beer, Wine and Liquors LLC, located at 2371 Washington Street in Roxbury. Date of the incident, July 4th, 2024. License is not posted conspicuously in violation of Mass General Laws, Chapter 138, Section 64. Failure to call 911 in violation of Mass General Laws, Chapter 138, Section 64, and Board's Rule 1.14b. And assault and battery patron on patron inside in violation of Mass General Laws, Chapter 138, Section 64, and Chapter 265, Section 13a. Who is present on behalf of the licensee?
Good morning, Attorney Green, Madam Chair, members of the board, Attorney Tyler Hensler here for the licensee. And joining me from Castillo Wine and Spirits is Carlos Castillo.
Thank you very much. Who is present on behalf of the Boston Police Department?
Good morning, Sergeant DeVito.
Thank you, Sergeant DeVito. Are there any other individuals with firsthand knowledge of the alleged incident who wish to testify this morning?
Carlos Castillo will.
Yes, thank you. Can you both please raise your right hand? Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you, Sergeant DeVito. If you could please read the reports into the record for the board.
Yes, good morning. At about 9:55 p.m. on Thursday, July 4th of this year, officers from District B2 in Roxbury responded to a radio call for a person stabbed at 25 Washington Street in Roxbury. They were able to make contact with the victim, Mr. Adams, sitting inside of the Nubian MBTA station, and observed what appeared to be lacerations and blood on his face. They spoke to the victim's girlfriend, who stated that her and the victim were leaving the liquor store, Castillo Liquors, located at 2371 Washington Street, when an unknown male came from behind and attacked the victim. I did respond with 2 of my detectives. Officers inquired with the victim's girlfriend if she had seen any weapons, to which she stated no, and that she believed the suspect had caused the injuries with his hands and nails. Victim described the suspect as a black male, medium complexion, tall, skinny build, wearing a black t-shirt and blue jeans. EMS arrived and transported the victim to Boston Medical Center. They made an attempt to speak to the victim on scene, but the victim did not make a statement. Officers spoke to the 911 caller, who stated that he was waiting for the bus when he overheard someone make a statement about a potential stabbing and saw the victim who had blood on his face, which prompted him to call 911. He did not see the incident take place. As officers were, this report kind of skips ahead. As officers were speaking to one of the employees, witnesses, Odalis Lara of the above mentioned liquor store, the suspect, later identified as Mr. Hartfield, came back to the scene, in which the victim informed officers that he was involved in the incident. He was approached and detained for further investigation. He said that he was on the bottom and was the one who was actually assaulted. None of the witnesses mentioned seeing a weapon. After an on-scene investigation, he was released. And then I'm going to just read my supplement report.
Thank you.
Which fills in some of the missing details there. So essentially the same. We responded to Nubian Station. We did observe the victim with injuries to his face. He did not answer any questions about who assaulted him or whether or not he was assaulted with a weapon. The girlfriend did direct us to Castillo's Liquors on Washington Street and said that he was assaulted inside. We did respond to the liquor store, and that is where we were told by one of the employees, Mr. Odalis Lara, that the victim was assaulted by the suspect inside of the liquor store. The suspect did return to the scene while we were there, and said that he did hit the victim with just his fists. No one had observed an actual weapon. Lara said that there had been some blood inside, which he had cleaned up. I did observe a mop and bucket in front of the counter and a wet area that appeared to have been recently cleaned. There were 2 female employees, Miss Carolina Paulino, or Rosa, and Ruth Vasquez, who were working behind the counter. All three employees primarily spoke Spanish. Officer Cost and Officer Gonzalez were helping translate. I confirmed that there were no 911 calls made for the fight by the employees. Initially, I did not observe the licenses for the establishment. And then I observed a bulletin board at eye level, where typically I would see the licenses. And then afterwards, I realized that they were high up on the wall. I approximated about 15 feet high on the wall, which is why I didn't see them initially. I obviously could not read them where they were. Due to the language barrier with the employees, they initially did not understand my request to take them down so I could view them. But eventually Lara did get a ladder and bring them down so that I could see them after he spoke to Mr. Castillo on the phone. I did speak to Mr. Castillo on the phone. I explained to him that there had been an incident, which according to his own employees, had taken place inside. I notified him of the violations, one being that the licenses were not conspicuously posted where I could access them or the public could access them. Upon inspection, the licenses were up to date. And then I did observe a video surveillance system operating inside the liquor store that would have likely captured the fight. The employees on scene were unable, they did not know how to access the system, but Mr. Castillo informed me that he does have access to the system. I will say, when I did follow, it was assigned to a detective for the assault, but the victim never agreed to participate in the investigation, did not want to go forward. So when I followed up with my detective, he never got the video, because it just, when he had an uncooperative victim, there was just no point in him getting the video. So unfortunately, I don't have video of the incident. That's all I have.
Thank you, Sergeant. Attorney Hensler, would you like to address the alleged incident?
Sure. I have no questions for the detective. I have a couple questions for Mr. Castillo, and then I'll give a statement on the incident. So Mr. Castillo, I'm going to ask you a few questions. Carlos, where are you? I don't see.
I'm here. Yeah.
Okay. Was anyone stabbed at Castillo's on July 4th, 2024?
No.
When you spoke to employees after you arrived, was there any blood on the floor?
No, we had 4 broken red wine bottles that happened during the altercation, and that's what they were cleaning up. And that's what our colleagues had said. Like the detective said, there's a language barrier, but as far as we know, we can't tell whether it was blood or not, to be frank, because it's 4 red bottles of wine.
Okay. Was anyone at
They showed
Castillo's
the detectives the broken glass of the bottles.
Okay. Was anyone at Castillo's on July 4th arrested or charged, to your knowledge?
No. Nope.
Okay. And was any follow-up after the incident date by the police?
No follow-up. Sergeant DeVito, I saw her at this hearing, which I thought what wasn't happening, and that's when I requested from the board for a new date, and that's why we're here today.
Okay. What steps did you take after this incident with your staff?
So when you walk out of our store, if you look to the right, you can immediately see the police station. We're literally across the street a block away. You could wave at a police officer if they're standing at a window. And to the left, 2 doors down, 70–80% of the time, they try to have a car stationed there. So it's quicker for us to grab one of the officers there than actually calling 911 in our experience. We've learned since this incident, call 911 even if it takes longer. But where we are, 4 blocks from Mass and Cass, it's a lot quicker to get a police response if we just walk out and grab somebody that's at the car nearby. If they're not there, then we could proceed to call 911. I mean, the notion of not calling 911 is just foreign to us because we rely on them, especially in this area, to, frankly, keep us safe.
Okay. And on the date of this incident, how quickly did your employees react?
Right away. I mean, the victim and both of these people are customers that know each other, and that's probably why they didn't press charges. And this was just to put it in context, this is July 4th. at almost 10 p.m. And so I think nobody getting stabbed, shot, everybody getting to go home is actually a good night. So I think we're fortunate that it didn't get worse. And it was something that made no sense. Somebody said something about somebody's mother, and the guy reacted, and it was just that. And the scratches on the face are just a cat fight that happened that lasted probably about a minute.
Okay. And when you said that they reacted immediately, what did the employees do?
Well, I could see Adali's trying to run to the door to try and get the police officer, but by the time he gets to the door, another customer had pulled the other person off of it. So I mean, the whole situation happened instantly, was diffused right away. I mean, I think even when the detectives arrived, the person who hit the woman that was in the station was still there. And then later that day, he tried to come back, and we told him, Richard, you're banned for a week for your nonsense. And he's been coming back every day apologizing for this.
Okay. All right, that's all the questions I have. All right, so Castillo Liquors is owned by Carlos Castillo, who you just heard from. Carlos is extremely involved in the Roxbury community. He's the treasurer of the merchant organization of the Roxbury Main Streets and has served in that role for the past 10 years. He donated just this past weekend over 1,200 books at the Roxbury Main Streets holiday tree lighting, and has donated over the past 13 years about 15,000 books total. He owns and operates 3 other liquor stores in the area and has a great relationship with the Boston Police Department, even having received community awards for his support of the department in the past. Under his leadership and direction, the Roxbury Main Streets started hosting weekly walkthroughs through several businesses around the Roxbury community every Thursday to ensure safety and compliance and to promote police department community outreach. Carlos maintains a very close relationship with many officers and detectives, including Captain Hussein in District B2. Castillo Wine and Spirits is located in very close proximity to the Nubian Square bus station, a high traffic area. So cooperation with the police is a regular occurrence and something that is stressed to all employees. The store is also 280 feet from the District B2 Boston Police Station, and park squad cars are usually visible from the front door of the store, as Carlos testified to. This specific altercation occurred on the evening of July 4th, 2024. It involved a group of people that were regular customers, that were friends, who were known to the employees, who often came in together, which incidentally might explain why the victims would not answer police questions or press charges. The physical altercation started very suddenly and quickly devolved into 2 people grappling on the floor of the store, with others attempting to break them up, and it ended less than 3 minutes after it began. During this time, an employee did, go outside to try and flag down the Boston police. Again, as there's a squad car parked there most of the time within sight of the store. But when the employee returned, the police had been called and the situation was diffused. So they waited for detectives there. When the police arrived on scene, one of the men involved in the altercation was present as well. On scene, it was determined that there had been no weapons, there had been no stabbing, and no arrests were made. The employees were cleaning up some of the mess caused by the altercation, which included 4 broken wine bottles. The employees cooperated with the police the entire time, and though there was a language barrier, as reported in the police report, again, they cooperated. It was at this time that it was brought to the attention of the employees and Mr. Castillo that the liquor license was posted in a spot the reporting detective found to be unsatisfactory. This spot was located above the door and next to a television set that is slightly above the door. This high posting spit area was to dissuade community members from using the case containing licenses as a sort of public bulletin board. When it was lower, the public would come in and use it to post flyers about events going on in the community, which obviously is not what it's for, as it would obstruct the licenses. So that's why they moved it up a little bit higher. And the license had been posted in this higher spot for about 10 years and had never been the subject of any concern by the members of the police department who have been in there multiple times, again, during these walkthroughs, the weekly walkthroughs. However, upon request from the detective, the staff relocated the sign to a lower location, as seen in the photo provided to the board of where the license currently hangs. I sent that photo just before the hearing, so you probably did not have time to review it, but currently hangs there. So again, the license was always posted, just a little bit higher than where it currently is. We heard from staff that during the police response, one of the customers may also have antagonized the police and filmed them. I want to make sure that I want to make very clear that the staff were not involved. It is the Castillo policy to instruct staff and customers to cooperate with the police at all times. Following the incident, Carlos again had a long discussion with his employees and the staff, where he reiterated the store's commitment to Boston Police cooperation and support. They are now instructed to call 911 immediately instead of trying to exit the store and physically track down officers in the area. Prior to this unforeseeable incident, it had been the practice to track down the police. It was more efficient, as Carlos mentioned earlier, but they also, banned the people involved for a period of time. And as stated, Castillo's has enjoyed a great relationship with the Boston Police over the past 10 years, particularly the B2 district, which is located less than 100 yards from the store. Carlos Castillo reached out to Captain Hasib Hussein of District B2 following this incident to be sure that the police department was comfortable with how Castillo's is moving forward following this incident, and he was assured that the Boston Police Department was. And with that, we're happy to take any questions. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll begin with Chairwoman Joyce if you have any questions.
You have the video that could be forwarded to the board?
No, we don't. Carlos, that's not available, is it?
No, it's July. We usually keep videos for 72 hours at the most a week, so we wouldn't have it from July. And there was no request for the video follow-up from the police department. Again, until the detectives came by, we didn't think this was an issue. This is another normal day in Nubian Square, unfortunately.
Remind me when the detectives came by, how long after the incident?
I think they were there within 10 minutes.
Okay, so we issued an advisory from the board back in April, reminding licensees of the importance of preserving the video. This is something that involved police response. You should have preserved this video. 72 hours is not a very long time, and the fact that the police were there within 10 minutes, you should have preserved the video.
We would definitely preserve it had we been aware of that, but where they didn't request it, it starts to recycle, just to rewrite so that we could keep the memory going.
When was the license premise incident report written up?
July 4th.
Yeah, you should have preserved the video. If you have a license premise incident report, you're going to be appearing before the board.
Yes, Chairwoman Joyce, obviously there was confusion, and Carlos tells me that he'll be working to implement a video surveillance preservation system that keeps the video longer than 72 hours in case of any confusion and delayed preservation, but also they will work to, anytime they get any sort of notice in the future, to actively, make a note in an abundance of caution, any police response to preserve the video.
Mr. Castillo's made a comment, something along the lines like this happens, this is the nature of where his business is. Because of that, you should be preserving the video. It's for your own protection. And we have issued repeatedly advisories to licensees to preserve the video. Given your location, 72 hours is not a lot of time. Given the fact that you were issued a license premise incident report is another reason why you should preserve the video.
Understood.
I think within the period where we were issued the report, video was available, but again, like the detective stated earlier, none of the victims wanted to press charges and they didn't pursue requesting any video. But from what you're telling me today, the way Attorney Hensley responded, we are moving accordingly, so that video will be available for any incident
in the future.
Commissioner Saxon or Commissioner Curran, do you have questions?
I have nothing to add. Thank you.
Nothing to add. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. With that, the board will take this under advisement as well. Thanks. And calling item number 9, Harvard Convenience Inc., doing business as Harvard Convenience, located at 157 Brighton Ave in Alston. Date of the incident, May 31st, 2024. Selling and drinking alcohol on premise in violation of Mass General Laws, Chapter 138, Section 64. And casino slot machines betting on premise in violation of Mass General Laws, Chapter 138, Section 64. Who is present on behalf of the licensee?
Good morning, Pat Hanley. I'm an attorney and I represent the licensee Harvard Convenience, and Grishma Patel is the proprietor, and I see her on Zoom right now.
Please see her as well. Thank you. Who is present on behalf of the Boston Police Department?
Detective Stephen Lizardo.
Thank you. Are there any other individuals with firsthand knowledge of the alleged incident who wish to testify this morning?
Boston Police Officer David Masiosi.
Thank you, Officer Masiosi. Can you all please raise your right hand? Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you. Who will be reading the police report into the record?
That would be I, sir, Officer Masiosi.
Thank you. You may please proceed.
Okay. Good morning. This is incident number 242-044-282. About 12:32 a.m. on Friday, May 31st, 2024, Officer Masiosi in the Kilo 422 Alpha unit and Officer Conley in the Kilo 498 Alpha unit responded to an investigative premise radio call at 157 Brighton Avenue, Alston, at the Harvard Convenience Store. Upon arrival, officers Masiosi and Conley made entry into reported incident location being the Harvard Convenience Store that was open for normal business hours at time of officers' arrival. As officers approached the front cashier counter area of a convenience store, officers spoke with the store manager, and I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing this correctly, Jendkumar Patel, and notified the store manager owner of officers' reasons as to being dispatched to the above-mentioned location due to reported gambling occurring at the above-reported premise. Now, the following few lines I'm going to read are what our dispatcher sent us. So this is from the dispatcher sent to us prior to us being arrival there. At approximately approximately 11:38 p.m. on the reported date, dispatcher stated, Spanish-speaking caller, requests interpreter. Caller states people have gambling machine inside store at above. Caller states there are kids there. States kids are drinking and using machines as well. Caller states this has been going on for a year. States he asked to go to the bathroom at the store, seen kids in room. States he's seen one kid about 10 to 12 years old. No weapons. Caller states he is concerned for child. Now, one note I want to make before proceeding with the narrative is that when we arrived, we found no juveniles and no kids on the premise there. Continuing with the report, officers also observed two convenience store clerks, Gopi Krishna and Bhavik Deedak, located behind the store cashier counter. It should be noted that store manager Jendkumar Patel informed officers that his spouse, Grishma Patel, was not on scene at time of officers' arrival, but was also the owner of the reported convenience store. After making entry into reported location, Officer Masiosi and Conley observed a door located to the left of front cashier counter and could clearly hear several voices coming from behind closed door to unknown area of store located on the first floor. Officers inquired with store manager / owner about the voices coming from behind the door. Again, the owner, Mr. Patel, willingly opened the door leading into unknown area and willingly escorted officers into the room where officers observed in plain view approximately 8 to 10 Hispanic male individuals, approximately between the age of 30 and 50 years old, standing next to 3 electronic video slot machines. Officers observed several of the individuals holding and consuming beer from open beer containers. Officers also observed approximately 24 consumed and partially consumed beer bottles / cans that were Corona and Modelo brand on the floor, placed in bags directly next to where a group of individuals were standing. Officers could feel partially consumed beer containers within hand reach of individuals standing next to slot machines, still cold to the touch of officers' hands. Officers observed one of the individuals using one of the video slot machines remove a paper receipt in a hurried manner from video slot machine, believed to be a form of gambling payout. Officers could see from slot machines various payouts being advertised on slot machine video screen, consistent to gambling payouts. Officers also observed where the paper money was to be inserted into slot machines in 1, 2, 5, 10, 20, 50, and $100 increments. Officer Diaz in the Kilo 414 Alpha Unit and Sergeant Nemes in the Kilo 981 Unit responded to incident location. Officers conducted protective sweep of establishment and found no other persons in basement area of store. Sergeant Nemes issued a licensed premise violation for selling drinking alcohol on premise and casino slot machines betting on premise. Number 024662. District 14 detectives notified. Sergeant Detective Joseph. The above-mentioned convenience store was frozen pending further investigation by District 14 detectives. Officers Lynch and McKenzie in the Kilo 202 Alpha Unit responded to incident location. All 3 store employees vacated the store in officer presence. Prior to vacating the convenience store, the store manager owner provided Sergeant Nemes a key used for video slot machines that was placed on cashier counter and remained on scene. Department body worn camera activated.
Thank you, Officer. We have a supplemental report as well. Will you be reading that, Officer Lozardo?
Yes.
Thank you.
So I'm going to
Sorry,
summarize.
Detective.
There's a lot of information in here that isn't really relevant, but so about 8:31 p.m. on Friday, May 31st, 2024, the search warrant was executed by myself, Detective Geraldo, Detective Lamontes, Detective Levichev, Officer Peckham, Sergeant Detective Merced, under the direct supervision of Sergeant Detective Joseph. Part of what we see included $229.50 and receipts inside a small gray safe, which was under the front register area. $928.61 in receipts, which were inside the front cash register. And these receipts that were found in the small gray safe and inside the front cash register had a serial number and had the text "good for" and then a dollar amount. And these were small receipts, and they appeared to be printed out from the slot machines. So there were 3 slot machines that were all next to each other in the rear storage room. The slot machine on the left contained $2,199. The slot machine in the middle contained $1,091. And the slot machine on the right contained $3,082. There was also a large gray safe next to the slot machines. And inside this gray safe on the top shelf, contained $22,730, and the middle shelf contained $152,029. And this search warrant was concluded at 11:15 p.m.
Thank you very much. Attorney Hanley, would you like to address the alleged incident?
Sure. Could I ask the detectives a couple of questions and then thank you.
You may.
Sure. Officer Masiosi, you indicated that the people that had been, when you arrived at the Harvard Convenience, that the people you observed there were between 30 and 50 years old. Is that right?
Yes, approximately.
No one under 21, as far as you could tell. Is that right?
That is correct.
Okay. The person on the 911 call is not identified in the police report. Is that right?
That is correct.
And so you don't have any additional information suggesting, that there was actually anybody 10 or 12 years old that was there, right?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. The employees that were at Harvard Convenience when you arrived there, were they cooperative with you?
Yes, they were.
You work in District 14, I take it?
That is correct, sir.
Had you ever had any other reason to go to Harvard Convenience for any other problem?
Not to my recollection.
And in terms of the machines that were identified as slot machines, how do you know that they were slot machines?
Well, there was on the screen itself. These weren't just like little small machines, countertop machines. These were machines that were approximately about we'll say about 7 feet tall. And on the screen, on the video screen, it was advertising payouts. And then there were like areas of the machine where you would insert cash. And then I also did observe one of the patrons remove what appeared to be like a printout receipt of it could have been winnings or the or whatever tallied up from his from using the machine.
Did you take any photographs of the screen of the machines?
I personally did not. We had body worn cameras, but I did not take any pictures.
Okay. What would distinguish these from arcade games?
Again, there were on the screen, there were advertisements for like winning and payouts. There was cash denominations again in believe I stated in the report, I'm sorry, money, there were like money payouts or like payments to be made for like 1, 2, 5, 10, 20, 50, $100 increments that might not be consistent with like a regular video game.
Did you or any of the officers that arrived with you that night play the games yourself? Not to play, but to test them out?
I did not.
Okay. I understand. Would it be possible to ask a few follow-up questions of Detective Lizardo?
Yes.
Sure. Detective, good afternoon, I guess it is. When you arrived at Harvard Convenience to participate in the execution of the search warrant, were the employees still there or were they gone by that point?
No, they were gone.
Okay. And during the execution of the search warrant, am I right that some cooperation occurred where, for example, the combination to the safe was provided to the detectives executing the search warrant?
Yes, they did provide the combination for the large safe in the rear storage room. Yes.
And am I right that there's an investigation that's ongoing into this between the Boston Police and the Attorney General's office?
There is.
And am I right that no criminal charges have issued at this point?
I do not believe so.
And are you aware of whether or not there's been continued cooperation by the owner of Harvard Convenience, Miss Grishma Patel, and with the Attorney General's office?
As far as I know, they have been cooperative, yes.
And am I right that there were some electronic devices that were seized during the execution of the search warrant? A couple of computers and phone?
Yes, correct.
And am I right that Harvard Convenience and Ms. Patel have provided the passwords that would open those devices to the Attorney General's office?
I believe so, yes.
Okay.
And then I know you had a question for the officer. I just wanted to, about the slot machines. I just wanted to add that we did take photographs of the slot machines, and they did appear to have the 3 rows of numbers going up and down that slot machines would typically have.
I understand. Did any Boston Police detectives engage in any undercover work in advance of the execution of the search warrant at this address to sort of try out the machines themselves?
No.
Okay. Do you know if any digital evidence analysis has been done of the machines themselves?
That I don't know.
Okay. You don't have the results of it if there was.
Right.
Okay. Do you work in District 14?
I do.
And have there been any further problems, to your knowledge, at Harvard Convenience since the execution of the search warrant back at the end of May of 2024?
To my knowledge, no.
Okay. And prior to this, were you aware of this retailer ever having any problems to your knowledge?
No.
Okay. Have you ever did you participate in a license premise inspection following the execution of the search warrant?
I did not.
Okay. Did you speak with the detectives that did?
No.
Okay. Would it surprise you if Harvard Convenience provided some fake IDs that they had collected from people trying to buy alcohol at Harvard Convenience?
Would it surprise me? I'm not sure.
You have no knowledge of that, I guess.
No.
Fair enough. I got it. I have no further questions for the detective and officer. I would have a couple other things to say, if that's okay.
You may.
Okay, thank you. As I provided an affidavit via email yesterday to Mr. Green that has some limited information about the cash that was seized at the location. It seemed to me that the board might be interested in, where a substantial amount of cash, I think about $180,000, was seized by the police. And what I provided to you was an affidavit from my client who's asserting her Fifth Amendment privilege. I'll get to that in a second. But that explains that about $140,000 had been received in cash in the 4 months through the end of, through the 1st of May of 2024, accounting for approximately $140,000 is the inference that I'm suggesting the board should conclude. And then for the month of May, I don't have the same information, in part because there's a search warrant done right at the end of May. But that would account for a substantial amount of the cash and not suggest that this is some great casino. That's the purpose of providing that affidavit. As indicated at the end of the affidavit, my client, Ms. Patel, is asserting her Fifth Amendment right not to incriminate herself. And as Detective Lizardo testified, the Attorney General's office is conducting an investigation and no charges have issued yet. And so I would ask that the board postpone any action on this license until such time as there is something more from the Attorney General's office in terms of charges, or from the courts in terms of charges. As you can imagine, I can't have my client testify now to explain anything that might be explained where the charges are lingering. I had asked for continuances before, and I didn't think it was appropriate to, in writing, ask for another continuance. And so that's why I wanted to begin the hearing, but also wanted to make the case that there should be a postponement because of the position that my client is in.
Thank you. Anything further before we move to questions from the board or reaction to your request?
After whatever the reaction to the request is, I would just like an opportunity, if the answer is no, to speak briefly about potential sanction.
Thank you. Chairwoman Joyce?
I'm not prepared to defer this right now. We would be deliberating on Thursday anyways, so if you want to take this opportunity, you might not have another opportunity to get on the record any additional information, you may do so.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I just didn't want to lose that opportunity. So I spent some time brushing up on some of the cases that have been issued, decisions that have been issued by the ABCC or that have gone up before the various courts of the Commonwealth in connection with a place that has a liquor license, either a bar or a package store type license, and then in the context of some gambling or gambling and other activity as there has been evidence here. And so what I've discovered in some of those decisions, it might be more useful for me to just send an email afterwards citing the decisions themselves. But the one that seemed most useful to me, sorry, I just have a lot going on my screen, is a case called Discount Liquor Mart, Inc., DBA Quality Brands Liquors, 2012 case from the ABCC out of Lawrence. And factually, assuming all the facts are true, as alleged by the police, I'd say factually this case is probably the most similar, where it was the alleged gambling activity at the location. It's not a bar, but a place that is selling liquor, so nobody should be consuming on the premises. And in that case, there had been a prior. There was similar evidence about receipts and potential payouts and such that consistent with what the officer and the detective testified about. In that case, there was one prior violation for a sale to a minor that surely factored into the discipline. And in that case, there was a suspension of license for 6 days, 4 days to be served, 2 days suspended for a period of 2 years based on that violation. Here, the licensee has been licensed, I think, for at this point about a year. Other than this incident, and I'm trying to diminish its significance, but other than this incident, there has been at least nothing introduced from the detective and the officer, and anecdotally, they haven't had any prior or subsequent issues with this licensee. That this is an isolated incident. A suspension would be appropriate if discipline is going to be considered. I would ask that the board, if it is considering a revocation, to consider allowing the licensee to sell the business, which they've considered. As indicated, this search warrant was executed in May. It's now December, so it's about 6 months later, a little more. And so it's a significant cloud to work under, and so they are considering that. And if that was something that would at least preserve, if revocation were on the table, and I don't know that it should be, but they'd like the opportunity, perhaps have the opportunity to sell the business and with it the license within some reasonable period of time.
Thank you. I want to get back to the earlier testimony before I don't know if anyone has any comments about your suggestions, but that back room where the casino games were, the slot machines, that's not part of the licensed premise, right? On the description, that is considered storage space.
I think that's right.
And they were allowing people to go in there and drink alcohol and play casino games.
My reaction would be that is the evidence that was offered. I don't want to.
Okay, no, I understand.
Okay.
And I wasn't sure from your testimony if you were trying to say that these were arcade games. Either way, I guess my question is, were any of those games back there licensed by us as entertainment games or by any gaming commission in the state as casino games? Because you can't just have arcade games anyways on a licensed premise without a proper license.
I don't know if they were licensed as arcade games. They certainly weren't licensed by the Gaming Commission.
Okay. And then if the detective wouldn't mind forwarding the pictures of that space to us, that would be helpful. So as to the selling and drinking alcohol on premise, can someone comment, or could you give us some information about, what was going on there? It sounds like you sell the things that were being consumed in the back room.
I can only comment on what the evidence was. I don't want to reveal any attorney-client communications, but I heard the evidence, and as you did, Chair.
Okay.
And
okay, that's fine. And
I'm
then
sorry.
if I'm not sure who can answer this, if it's the detective or the police, but the police report states that they were shut down immediately. When were they allowed to reopen?
Immediately following the conclusion of the search warrant, I believe a friend of the owner arrived on scene and was given the key to the business.
Okay. And just as you said, attorney, that they've only been open for a year with no blemishes on their record. The fact is that they were only open a year, and this seems to be taking place, which is unusual. At the very least, unusual. I don't have any other questions. Commissioner Curran or Commissioner Saxon?
Yeah, I guess I have some stuff I want to discuss. Maybe I'm not fully up on my constitutional law here, Attorney Hanley, so I kind of want to just go over a couple of bits here.
Sure.
Your position that your client is under threat of a criminal prosecution?
Yes.
Okay. You're going to make any kind of argument that we can't move forward as an administrative body at this time with that pending?
I don't think I can say you can't. I'm asking that you don't.
Yep. Okay. So with that in mind, with regard to the affidavit, my first instinct is to disregard it personally. To me, I don't think she can choose to make some statements and then assert her fifth here. She doesn't have a Fifth Amendment right with us. If she's pleading the fifth with regard to the entire incident and her fear of prosecution, I think it would be an all or nothing proposition. Am I wrong there?
She has a Fifth Amendment right anywhere she is. She has in a criminal courtroom, it can't be used against her. I understand that in this proceeding, the assertion of it does not have the same. She doesn't have the same protections against it being used against her in this proceeding. I don't think that I mean, I think you're the judge of the evidence. Oh, sorry.
I'm not inclined to accept an affidavit that's kind of, cherry picked. I want to make a statement about these things, but with regard to everything else, I'm going to assert my fifth. So my instinct would be to disregard this affidavit, I'm not going to weigh it unless you can make a compelling argument to me that I should weigh it.
I'd suggest that it was one place where she was in a position to, without doing damage to herself, offer evidence, and I have the at least the cash printouts, that show how much cash to at least back up that portion of it, and I identify the bank account for it to try to at least substantiate the bank account's real. And so I understand your position. You're certainly the judge of the evidence and the credibility. So I would ask that you consider it. I like all the evidence, you consider it, reject it, take some or all. But I would suggest that it is legitimate in these circumstances for her to offer a limited affidavit. But I'm also hearing what you're saying.
Okay, I appreciate that. Thank you. I think that's all I have. Thanks.
Yeah, whether a licensee can selectively plead the fifth, I'm not sure. But other than that, I really don't have any questions. But Attorney Hanley, if you want to make arguments before this board, that we'll certainly hear it.
I think not knowing the order here, I think I've made my argument. I'll just send an email to Mr. Green if that'd be okay with the one case that I cited specifically, and I think there's maybe three others that are similar but not as similar as that one.
Yep, that will be great, and I'll make sure that that's circulated to the commissioners. The record will remain open until the end of the day tomorrow, as the board is preparing to vote on Thursday morning.
Thank you very much.
Any further questions from the board? With that, the board will take this under advisement as well. Thank you. And those are all of the items before the board this morning. That will be the adjournment of this hearing. The board will vote Thursday morning at 10 a.m. Notice has been posted to the city's website. Thank you all, and enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you.